Warren Buffett wrote his final letter to shareholders at the age of 95, and the document reads less like a business update and more like a will. He has run Berkshire Hathaway for almost 6 decades. He has built one of the largest fortunes in human history. And now, in what he expects to be his last major message to investors, he laid out 5 lessons that he wants to outlive him. You are about to walk through each one, and the lessons apply far beyond the world of investing. If you have ever wondered what one of the wisest financial minds of the past century would say if he knew his time was running out, the letter answers exactly that question. Buffett does not speak in vague platitudes. He names the principles that built his fortune, the mistakes that almost destroyed it, and the habits he wants his children, his successors, and his readers to carry forward long after he is gone. The tone is calm. The content is sharper than anything he has written in years. Here is the first lesson, and it sets up everything that follows. Buffett writes that the single biggest factor in long-term wealth is patience. Not intelligence, not access to insider information, not aggressive trading. Just the willingness to sit on quality assets for decades while everyone else churns their portfolios trying to time the market. He estimates that more than 90% of his lifetime gains came from holdings he kept for at least 10 years. And most of those for 30 or more. You should sit with that number for a moment. The man who became one of the richest people in the world did so by mostly doing nothing. He bought good companies. He held them. He resisted the constant urge to sell when prices dipped or to switch when something newer caught his attention. The simplicity of the principle is what makes it so hard to follow. Almost everyone wants to feel active, and that need for activity costs ordinary investors enormous amounts of money over their lifetimes. Stay with this, because the second lesson hits even harder. Buffett writes that most people lose money not because they pick the wrong investments, but because they cannot control their own emotions. Fear during downturns, greed during booms, envy when others appear to be making more. Each emotion produces predictable mistakes, and predictable mistakes get repeated for decades by investors who never learn to recognize them. The technical analysis of any stock is the easy part. Managing the human being holding it is the hard part. Now, think about your own behavior during the last market drop. Did you sell anything you wished you had kept? Did you stop investing for a few months because the news felt scary? Buffett would tell you that those reactions are not flaws unique to you. They are the default human response, and overcoming them is the single most valuable skill any investor can develop. The technique he recommends is simple. Decide your strategy when markets are calm. Stick to it when they are not. Most of investing is just refusing to abandon a good plan during bad weeks. Here is the third lesson, and it speaks directly to anyone building wealth in 2026. Buffett warns against the temptation to chase exciting new investments simply because they are new. He writes that every generation produces a wave of innovations that look like guaranteed paths to riches. Some of them deliver, most of them do not. The ordinary investor who buys broad market funds and holds them for decades almost always outperforms the one who jumps from trend to trend, trying to find the next breakthrough. You should also know what Buffett means when he says boring. He does not mean uninteresting. He means proven. Companies with strong cash flow, real customers, and sensible management. The kind of businesses that produce steady returns year after year without needing constant innovation to survive. These businesses rarely show up on social media feeds because nothing dramatic happens in their stories. They quietly compound for decades while flashier names rise and fall on the front pages. Stay with this part, because the fourth lesson is the one that surprises most readers. Buffett writes about the importance of choosing the right life partner. He does not frame this as a personal preference. He frames it as a financial decision. He argues that the people you marry, befriend, and work with shape your financial life more than almost any other factor outside of your own decisions. A supportive partner can keep you grounded through expensive bad years. A combative partner can drain savings, attention, and emotional energy that should be going into your work. Now, think about how rarely financial advice covers this ground. Most personal finance books focus on budgeting, investing, and retirement planning. Buffett, at 95, says the choice of who you build your life with is upstream of every one of those topics. The wrong partnership creates expenses, conflicts, and instability that no investment strategy can fully repair. The right partnership creates a stable foundation that lets compound growth do its quiet work over decades. Here is the fifth lesson, and it is the one Buffett seems to want remembered most. He writes that money should never become the measure of a successful life. He acknowledges the irony of this advice coming from one of the richest men in history. He explains that the people he has known who built fortunes and then defined their worth by those fortunes ended their lives unhappy. The people who built fortunes and used them as tools for something larger, for family, for philanthropy, for ideas they believed in, ended their lives at peace. As Buffett closes this section, the message becomes deeply personal. He reflects on friends he has lost, colleagues who sacrificed relationships for one more deal, and even his own regrets. In those moments, the letter stops being about investing and becomes about life itself. Money, he suggests, is only one tool. Time is the resource that truly matters. The broader context makes these words even more powerful. For 6 decades, Buffett's annual letters have been studied by investors around the world. This final letter carries special weight because there will be no next one. Yet, instead of ending with complex financial advice, he chose lessons anyone can use. The final takeaway is simple. Buffett's success came not from being the smartest person in the room, but from understanding himself, staying patient, and remaining focused on what mattered most. His legacy is not a strategy for getting rich. It is a reminder to spend your time wisely, stay true to your principles, and keep doing the work that compounds over a lifetime. And perhaps that is why this final letter resonates so strongly. It asks readers to think beyond returns and toward the kind of life they are building. In the end, Buffett's greatest lesson may be that success is measured not only by what you accumulate, but by what you never lose along the way. That perspective is rare in a world obsessed with constant growth and endless comparison. Buffett spent decades proving that patience can outperform urgency, and clarity can outperform complexity. His final letter leaves readers with a question that has little to do with markets. When the years have passed, what will you be most grateful that you invested in? Because sooner or later, every investor reaches a point where the scorecard becomes personal. And when that day comes, the relationships you built, the values you kept, and the time you spent wisely may matter far more than any number on a balance sheet.